Hey everyone, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
So imagine this for a second. The very foundations of American democracy, maybe uh, slowly being chipped away at, not by some, external enemy, but by this really well-funded, deeply connected network working right here.
hmm
That kind of chilling idea is really central to Katherine Stewart's book, Money, Lies, and God. It's quite something.
It really is. And this deep dive, it falls squarely into investigative journalism, maybe some political analysis too.
Right.
Stewart's core argument is that what some might see as an anti-democratic movement in the U.S.,
Yeah.
it isn't just the spontaneous thing, like concerned people just popping up everywhere.
Not just grassroots.
Exactly. She argues it's, well, carefully built, it's leadership-driven, fueled by some serious money and a whole web of interconnected organizations.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit, because Stewart kind of gives us a framework, doesn't she, for understanding how this works.
She does. She breaks it down into key players.
Yeah, like the funders, these are the wealthy donors, the money behind it all,
The fuel, basically. Then you've got the thinkers.
the ones shaping the ideology, pushing the core ideas.
Precisely. Crafting and spreading the message. And then there are the power players.
Okay, who are they?
These are the leaders, often of Christian nationalist groups, who are really skilled at mobilizing what Stewart calls the infantry.
The infantry, the grassroots supporters, the base.
Yep. And the book just meticulously traces how this whole network pushes its influence, everywhere. Elections, education policy, lots of areas of American life.
What really stands out, I think, and Stewart does a great job here, is how she connects the dots. You see these seemingly separate events, different people.
And she shows how they're actually linked. It's quite revealing. She lays bare the sort of underlying structure of the whole thing.
Totally. It shows how these different parts work together, like a coordinated strategy. You really see the financial side, the organizational structure holding it all up, things that might otherwise just look like random noise.
Yeah, it takes away that randomness.
Absolutely. Now, what I personally found fascinating, and this isn't really a spoiler, is just the sheer scale of it all. The interconnectedness is, well, it's kind of mind-boggling.
It can feel overwhelming.
It can. Though, credit where it's due, Stewart makes this really complex picture pretty understandable. But the flip side, what felt a bit unsettling, again, no spoilers, is realizing how many of these key figures, and especially where the money comes from.
It's hidden.
A lot of it operates in the shadows, There's a real lack of transparency, which definitely makes you think about our political processes.
And that's a key tension in the book, isn't it? The difference between the public face, the rhetoric, and the hidden mechanics, the funding, the organization.
Yeah, exactly. And Stewart is super clear. This isn't just like popular opinion bubbling up. She really hammers the point that it's leadership driven.
Very much so. It depends heavily on the money, the infrastructure these groups build, and the specific goals of, certain key people.
So let's talk about those categories again, the funders.
Yeah.
Who does she actually point to?
Well, she named some prominent figures, people like Betsy DeVos, the Wilkes brothers, Rebecca Mercer, Tim Dunn, the Cooks, familiar names.
Right.
But also less visible ones who funnel money through what's often called dark money channels.
Ah, dark money. That phrase keeps popping up. What does that mean in this context?
It's basically this complex maze of organizations, often set up as nonprofits, that aren't legally required to say who their donors are.
So you can't follow the money easily.
Not at all. It makes it really tough to see where the funding is coming from or just how much there is.
Okay, so that's the money. What about the thinkers, the idea people?
Stewart generally places them under the banner of the New Right, although she adds a caveat that the label might be a bit misleading, doesn't always fit traditional conservatism.
Interesting. So what's their main idea, according to her?
A big part of it, she argues, is this belief in an all-powerful, woke elite that supposedly controls everything, institutions, culture.
That sounds familiar, the sort of cancel culture idea, but really amplified.
Kind of, yeah. Framed as this huge systemic threat. But Stewart flips that script a bit.
How so?
She suggests that these thinkers, the ones pushing this narrative, are actually a powerful elite themselves. They're embedded in think tanks, advocacy groups.
Funded by the same billionaires.
Heavily funded by them, yes. So she frames their anti-woke campaign less as a defense against some outside force and more like an intra-elite struggle.
A fight within the elite.
Using the funders' money and the grassroots supporters almost as weapons in what she calls an intellectual culture war. The key takeaway she offers is that this anti-woke stuff, often presented as coming from the ground up.
Might actually be a tool used in these power struggles higher up.
That's her argument, that it's driven from within these elite circles.
Wow, okay, that adds another layer. So money, ideas, then the power players.
Yeah.
The ones making it happen.
Exactly. These are the heads of organizations Stewart identifies as Christian nationalists.
Meaning groups that believe Christian values should basically be U.S. law and government.
That's the core idea, yeah. Stewart mentions figures like, celebrity preachers, influential lobbyists, Ralph Reed, Tony Perkins are names she brings up. They hold a lot of personal sway mobilizing their followers.
Try to coordinate.
Oh, yeah. They meet at places like the Council for National Policy, the National Prayer Breakfast. These are hubs where one turn financial backing and voter enthusiasm into actual political clout.
So they're the strategists, connecting the money and the energy to specific political aims.
You got it. Stewart gives some really vivid examples. She talks about attending events where people like Tim Barton push this very specific version of American history.
What kind of version?
Asserting the founders were all devout Christians, the Constitution comes straight from the Bible, while painting standard U.S. history courses as, like, liberal brainwashing.
Yeah.
And Stewart's point is this isn't just some random history talk. It's one piece of a much larger coordinated effort to shape how people see the world, how they understand America.
It's about building a whole alternative reality, almost.
Absolutely. And she says this gets reinforced by creating an information bubble.
Okay, like how? Right-wing media.
That's part of it, sure. But also the internal networks within the Christian nationalist movement itself. Think about pastors who attend these big conferences.
They go back to their churches.
And they have direct access to millions of people every single week. They can deliver a steady stream of political messages.
And there are groups specifically for that, right? Like Faith Winds, Pastors for Trump, getting religious leaders involved.
Exactly. Because for many in their target audience, pastors, their church community, those are the most trusted sources. It creates this powerful echo chamber.
Makes sense. Very effective. Stewart also argues they're trying to shift something fundamental, like where political legitimacy comes from.
Yeah, away from the usual democratic stuff, elections, courts, law enforcement.
And towards what?
Towards what they see as higher authorities, a sort of true spirit of the nation, often framed as God-given, divinely ordained.
So it allows a minority group to feel like they have a right to rule, regardless of vote counts.
That's the implication Stewart draws, this belief in a kind of providential right to govern.
You know, when you hear someone like Steve Bannon talking about building a governing coalition for 100 years, that sounds like it taps into that same kind of thinking.
It certainly seems to align with that belief in a predetermined, almost divinely backed political future. Stewart also touches on how the movement reacted to the 2020 election loss.
Right, because if they saw their candidate as chosen, losing must have caused some issues.
It did create some conflict, yeah. Though Stewart observes that the period of uncertainty for most in those circles was pretty short-lived.
Really?
Yeah, while maybe a few initially said, okay, Biden won, let's pray, the vast majority very quickly jumped onto the stolen election narrative. Any initial hesitation, as Stewart puts it, didn't stick around long.
So, okay, bringing this all together, what's the big picture Stewart is painting for us, the listeners?
She's describing a very organized, extremely well-funded, and ideologically committed movement that, in her analysis, poses a real challenge to democratic norms in the U.S.
And she backs it up.
Oh, definitely. With a lot of evidence, naming names, organizations, showing the money trails, detailing the strategies they use to gain influence, it's a really thorough look at these forces at play.
Yeah, for me, money, lies, and God felt like, well, essential reading if you want to get a handle on the current political moment. I'd give it a solid 4.5 out of 5 stars.
High praise.
Well, the research is just so meticulous. It's really impressive. And seeing her connect those dots, like we talked about, it really is eye-opening. Now, sure, the sheer scale can feel a bit daunting.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. And the fact that so much operates out of sight, that opacity, that's genuinely concerning.
Yeah.
But the book gives you such a valuable framework for understanding these complex dynamics.
It definitely pushes you to think more critically about the stories we hear in public life and to wonder about the forces often hidden that might be shaping them.
Absolutely. So if this deep dive into these forces shaping democracy has got you thinking, definitely hit like and subscribe.
Please do.
We've also put a link to Katherine Stewart's Money, Lies, and God on Amazon down in the description if you want to read it for yourself and explore more.
And thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We always love hearing what part of the discussion stood out to you.
Yeah, what was the most surprising connection for you? Or maybe the most revealing part of what we talked about today? Let us know in the comments below. And please share this with anyone you think might find this useful or interesting.
And maybe just leave you with this thought. Consider the impact of this kind of hidden funding, these organized networks, not just on who wins elections, but on the actual fabric of society. What does that make you wonder about transparency, about influence in our democracy today?